What's up, everybody? Episode 8 of Murder Drones is here, and as is often the case, some fans are a bit confused about everything that happened. So we're gonna break it all down, of course, but spoiler alert, that obviously means we're gonna be talking about important details of the finale, so go watch it if you haven't yet. The finale epically ended with Uzi eating the essence of Sin and somehow becoming infused with her, something confirmed by the new color of her eyes at the end of the episode, but how exactly did this happen? Episode 7 had some big lore reveals and epic battles itself, leading to Uzi trying to save En by sacrificing herself. This caused a huge explosion, and episode 8 opens with us seeing the explosion from the outside perspective, which Uzi had essentially missed by being right at the heart of it. Here, there's a sudden shift where gravity begins to reverse on Copper 9 and things begin to float outward towards space. In one shot in the montage, we see the closet where Uzi's father kept the writings and art of Nori. This contained all of her visions and warnings of an apocalyptic event where the Absolute Solver would take on some massive form. This let us know that this is the event itself, finally happening in the finale. This scene is haunting, but it has an even more chilling effect when watched directly after episode 7, and would perhaps fit perfectly right after Uzi falls into the pit, but before she awakens in space, giving us the creepy result of her sacrifice, complete with the dead human bodies beginning to drift into space with all of the debris. During this, Uzi's teacher is grading an essay of hers where she apparently has gone insane, simply writing "I am God, I am God, I am God" over and over again. This would be recent, sometime after she had started to connect with the Absolute Solver and experience the godlike powers that had been clearly driving her mad. By the end of this episode, Uzi's sacrifice will have led her to absorb the power of the Absolute Solver and become something of a god. Following this, we return to where episode 7 left off with Uzi in space, but she isn't alone. First, she meets her mother Nori, still in her core form. Uzi cannot speak in space since the sound won't travel out there, but she can put text on her screen, which Nori can respond to with scratches on floating debris. Through this, Uzi asks how to stop the Absolute Solver, particularly how to stop her from controlling Uzi, since the USB patch was destroyed in the previous episode. Nori gives Uzi back the skull bracelet and insists that Uzi will be fine as long as Uzi isn't a little bitty. Yes, I said bitty because that's what I assume the word is since it's censored. Now, at first, I wasn't sure if this was supposed to indicate that the skull necklace was some sort of USB patch backup file that would help protect Uzi, but as the episode continues, we see that it's actually a matter of Uzi's own will that ends up holding the Absolute Solver back, with Nori here just giving her a pep talk. Uzi ends up being pulled away from her chat with her mom by En, who has gone full circle in his hero's journey back to where he started in episode 1, proud to be a pilot of a ship. Together, they work through their feelings and establish that they are dating and ready to defeat Sin while bursting into flames while falling from the sky. In this scene, we also begin to understand that Sin's plan always had to escalate to this, that it wasn't a prediction or prophecy of some horrible accident that led to this, but that Sin was going to find one way or another to create this event at the core of Copper 9 in order to destroy it all and the robot life there. So, in this great new form, she begins to destroy the exoplanet. On Sin's side is Jay, who tries to kill off drones that are floating around in the debris, such as Uzi's classmates, but they are rescued by none other than V. V had previously sacrificed herself in order to help En and Uzi escape back in episode 6, leaving her behind to face the drone-killing Sentinels. However, in this episode, we see that V has epically survived this and befriended one of the Sentinels, riding it like her steed into battle. This led to an epic clash between V and Jay, where we see the real levels of their desires. V has gone back and forth on her allegiance, but she feels betrayed that even in these last moments, Jay is siding with Sin. Jay herself feels tricked by Sin too, but she ultimately thinks it's better to serve on her side, whether it leads to truly being spared or just their own inevitable destruction as well. With these emotional bits wrapped up, the rest of the episode is essentially just really good action. Uzi throws her dark hole into the light mass of Sin, but she comes out in her true Sin body in order to fight back. Sin tries using her power to control Uzi, but Uzi ends up resisting, as she was promised by her mother. We see one moment in particular where Uzi and En are hiding from Sin, where she is using a callback ping to try and take over Uzi's body, and it seems to work for a moment, with Uzi's left eye becoming Absolute Solver yellow and the other remaining Uzi purple. But again, Uzi is able to resist and her eye returns to purple. Their hiding is interrupted by V, which leads to N getting his heart ripped out. And that was just one of the fake outs of drones losing their hearts or cores and being severely damaged, but both N and Uzi were able to end up healing themselves in the end. The battle, despite those scary moments, was mostly about how cool Uzi, N, and V had all become as a team, gaining control of the powers that the Absolute Solver had given them to such a degree that they were able to fend Sin off when working together. Uzi in particular had been struggling with Sin controlling her, but now through the clever use of the Absolute Solver's power, Uzi was able to grab the heart of Sin herself. According to Nori's asteroid writings when talking to Uzi, it's the heart of Sin that needs to be destroyed in order to defeat the Absolute Solver forever, as no backup could seemingly replace her. This made Sin seem perhaps really easy to defeat in the end, but that makes sense considering the elaborate lengths that Sin had gone to in order to not interact with people directly, even trying to pass herself off as Tessa to hide her real identity. However, defeating her still isn't that easy, and even with a heart reduced to some condensed black hole null matter, Sin's influence is still able to take form around Uzi, leading to what the real ending of the story is all about: Uzi eating the Absolute Solver. To Uzi, this perhaps seemed like the only way to stop the Absolute Solver, with it having one of two potential outcomes. The first and worst outcome would be the Absolute Solver simply gaining control of Uzi and continuing her plans with Uzi essentially now dead. However, with Uzi believing that she had control over the Solver's influence inside of her now, the second option becomes Uzi being able to maintain the Solver inside of her as a whole, indefinitely, perhaps for all of eternity. And thankfully for Uzi, that was the option that won out, at least so far. When the battle first ends, N and V are nervous when they see Uzi, as the lower part of her eyes are still the typical purple, but the upper half is yellow, with the two colors fading into each other in the middle. This indicates that the Solver isn't in some sort of half control like with one yellow and one purple eye might indicate, but rather a merging of Uzi's and the Absolute Solver's consciousness. However, in the end, Uzi's remark about being a damaged OC because of this gives the impression to N and V that she is still in fact herself, still making nerdy references with internet slang. But not everything is as it seems. Uzi, interestingly, ends the story where it began, giving a class presentation on everything that they had been through in that season. This is a reference to her first presentation in the first episode, where she shows the circular hero's journey in her presentation, with it being a loop that always has the hero returning to the beginning. In the hero's journey formula, it is common for the character to leave the comfort of the home in order to realize that they actually do love their home and return to it in the end, and that is exactly what Uzi does here. However, there is something cryptic in the presentation. A piece of artwork shows the Absolute Solver symbol with the words "I am not solved," indicating that the Solver's presence still influences Uzi's actions and is leaking out into her art. What Uzi says in the scene can also be seen as true for both Uzi and the Solver. For Uzi, it's the return to the bunker itself that makes her say that she doesn't actually hate being here. But for the Solver, it's a return to a more limiting form, learning to not just hate being another drone among drones. However, the Solver does also seem to have direct control over Uzi's tail, it would seem. We see this in the post-credit sequence, where the Solver, through Uzi's tail, suggests putting on a bow, ignoring the fact that her Solver ability still seemingly randomly cracks mirrors so she can't see how she looks. This shows that the Solver on 3 different levels will continue to be an annoying influence in Uzi's life. The stress that the Solver feels seems to be leaking out through Uzi and her art. The Solver also exists in her tail, talking to her directly, and her powers seem to be leaking out in little bursts, making things just a little bit more annoying. But at the end of the day, Uzi seems to think that she is the one in control. But is it perhaps possible that, like always, the Solver has a plan and that she can just bide her time before one day escaping? The show is officially over, with it being said that this is the series finale, not just the season finale, which would indicate a season 2. But this idea does leave open the door for a future story if they ever choose to return to it. It wouldn't even have to be in the same expensive dramatic fashion, but we could see more bits of these characters' lives in the form of comic books over in the Glitch In subscription service, or even a real return to the series form in a few years if interest in the show continues or even grows. But for now, I think it's safe to say Uzi is gonna be just in control of the Solver, trying to enjoy her normal life, but also having some annoying problems along the way. But what do you guys think? And what do you want me to discuss for this big round of Murder Drones videos? videos. You can 100% expect me to do a big mythological breakdown like the ones I did for Adventure Time and Hazbin Hotel after their recent finales, but what other topics would you like me to break down for the series? For those who like murder drones, you may also like Serial Experiments Lane. And if you do like Lane, you might like that I did a big video breaking down its lore and history for those who are confused by the plot. Check that out while you wait for more Murder Drones videos, link in the pinned comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.